Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Northeast Union Elementary School District. And as we do in these meetings, I'm going to ask each person to identify themselves, and I'll probably call the roll like it was school, and I'll ask you just to tell me where you're from and why, besides the fact you've got nothing better to do on a Thursday night that you're here. So I'm going to begin with Anne Boudre-Torre. Anne, tell me how we should know you tonight.
And Anne just texted in the chat saying that her microphone is not working. She's the literacy coach for WNESU.
That's perfectly reasonable. All right, I see Liz Hardy. I know why you're here. I see Lynn and I see Charles. Mr. Joseph Smith, I've seen you, but I don't know what you do. Tell me.
I am the school counselor at Westminster School.
Well, good. All right. Doug is here, and I know what Doug is still doing. He's working for White River, but he's still pretending to be part of us. Dempsey?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Great. I am a paraeducator at the Westminster Center School, and I certainly have better things to do. And that is be here at this meeting to stand up for the rights of my colleagues.
Well, we will do a public comment session, and if you'd like to elaborate, we will do that. Again, bearing in mind what public comment is. I see Tree. I see two people whose names I don't see a name. One of whom is outside, like all of us should be, and is wearing a purple top. Hi. Who are you? Bethany. There we go.
Bethany. Hi, I'm Bethany Corson. I'm title para from Westminster, and I'm at this meeting because I'm one of the positions that was cut. Yep. And I just kind of would like to be involved and hear some of the reasoning behind it. So.
All right, very good. And I see Lisa Stapleton, I think it is.
Yes, I'm a public preschool teacher. I teach both at Cherry Hill and at the Westminster Center School, but I also sit on the WNEA Leadership Committee. So I'm just trying to wrap my brain around all this and find out more about what's going on.
As are we all. Don, I see you. You can Don Capicelli.
Hi, Jack. Yeah, I'm Athens appointee to the advisory committee. Maybe on the public comments, I could ask a couple questions on that.
That sounds reasonable. I see Melissa's now here. Lynn's here. Janelle Beard is here. Janelle?
Yeah, it's true. Oops. I work at the Westminster School as an integrated arts teacher, and I live in Westminster, so I'm here to support both my community and my fellow peers.
That sounds great. Now there's a lady who's, again, I apologize because sometimes names show up on my screen and sometimes they don't. She has black hair and it has a grayish top, and I can't tell you more about her because I don't see any.
Okay, so
Amanda, go.
Yep. So this is Amanda Damaris, and I work at Westminster Center School in the Behavioral Intervention Program known as TIDES, and I am one of the paras that have been riffed, and I have concerns about that. Yep. And I'm also a mom of a child who has an IEP, but not a one-on-one, so that child might fall through the cracks. So multiple reasons.
Understood. Janelle Beard, did I talk to you already? Yes, I did.
You
right?
did. Yes.
Okay, I see. I've got three other people. Danielle Saint Armand, and you'll forgive me when I massacre names. It happens a lot.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I am the music teacher at Westminster Center School, and I am here to support my peers.
Understood. Deborah, I'm going to mess up, Deborah. Help me out.
It's Ruswick, Deborah Ruswick.
Thank you.
I'm a teacher at Westminster Center School and wanted to join the meeting to learn what was going on and support our community.
All right, I see Deanna's here. Deanna, you can this time for introductions, and we'll do the comment in a minute. I cannot hear you, unfortunately. So you're going to have to. There we go.
Sorry, I'm Dina, and I'm a fourth grade teacher at Westminster, and I also am on the leadership team and the ad hoc committee of WNEA, and I'm a Westminster resident. So I'm here in all of those roles, I hope.
And at some point, you'll explain to us later what a ad hoc committee means. Sue Lockerbie, I see your name. I don't see your face. Are you there? Hi, Sue.
Hi, Susan Lockerbie, school nurse, just here to support staff in the community, and sounded like an interesting agenda, so here I am.
And welcome to it. I believe you're on our agenda tonight. So that's,
yes, I am. Yeah.
All right. I see a woman with a WORLD shirt, but again, I don't see a name. My apologies. Yes, that's you.
That is me. I'm Paul. I'm one of the kindergarten teachers in Westminster, and I am here to get information to support my colleagues and staff.
All right. I see Trish Adams' name here. Trish, I'm jealous.
Hi. Hi, everybody. So I'm the administrative assistant over in Westminster, and I'm here to support my colleagues.
All right. Very good. Let's see. Bethany Corson, have I mentioned you yet? Lisa, when I switch, it says on the second page, but it looks like mostly the same people. Hardy Merrill, I see Hardy. Hi, Hardy. I will introduce Hardy. He's a member of the advisory committee, but if he gets his mute off, he can tell you more.
Okay, Hardy.
I'm on the just newly elected to the Grafton Advisory Committee by the Select Board, and I'm just listening into the meeting tonight. Thank you.
Congratulations and my sympathies, depending on which is appropriate.
Okay.
Angela Cartier.
Hey everyone, I'm the 3rd and 4th grade teacher at Grafton, and I'm just here to listen and just stay informed on what's going on at Grafton and Westminster.
All right, I saw Kelly Hardwick. No, Kelly. I saw Kelly, and then her name just there. Kelly Halleck. My apologies, Kelly.
I teach 1st and 2nd grade at Grafton, and I'm also a Grafton resident. So
You are.
I know what's going on.
Very good. Let's see, Cheryl Sherwin, have I recognized you?
Were you talking to me, Jack? This is Cheryl Charles.
No, I was
was that
your namesake, Cheryl Sherwin.
I am the speech language pathologist at Westminster Center School and at Grafton Elementary School, and I'm just here because I rely so heavily on paras, so I'm here to support them.
All right. I see Charles, you're here. Not Charles Chase, but Charles, I can't see Hutchinson.
Hey, Hutchinson, this one. Hi, I'm Charlie Hutchison from Westminster, the advisory committee in Westminster. Just here to stay informed and hear what's going on.
All right. Gotcha. Wendy Martin. Wendy.
Hi, everybody. I'm just here to watch and listen. That's it.
All right. Is there anybody whose name I have not mentioned? Please wave. Just turn off your mute right now.
I'm here, Jack.
I'm sorry, Kim. There we go. And I saw you earlier. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Kim Record from the town of Grafton, town clerk treasurer, and anxious to hear about the whole entire budget vote and how the election is going to be held.
If you have any ideas how that's going to happen, I suppose you could tell me.
I have a plan, so hopefully everybody else is happy with it.
And I'm grateful for that. All right. Anyone else I've missed?
I'm here. I'm Michelle Fournier, and I'm a third grade teacher in Westminster. And I'm here in support of my colleagues.
Michelle, I saw your name and then you disappeared on. My apologies. All
Sorry.
right. Let us,
Too.
oh, Aldina, did I not? I am.
That's all right. I'm here just to listen.
All right, very good. Now, okay.
I'm at Westminster.
I thought as much. I know a lot of you guys, and by sight I always have trouble with names. So I have trouble with everybody's names. Well, we've called the meeting to order, and I am now asking if there are any adjustments or amendments to the agenda. And I'm going to ask all non-members to mute for a minute until we get to the public comments. Any adjustments, anybody? Hearing none, we're going to go forward. Now we've got communications and public comment. I did specifically invite Dina to speak at this point, and we'll invite all the rest of you. And again, I will ask you all to bear in mind that I have a pledge to my wife, and you may have some of your spouses, to get this done before 9 o'clock tonight. So off we go. You're on.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to read a letter that I already shared with, you can hear me, right? That
Yep.
I shared with the board members. I'm writing to you on behalf of WNEA, the Wyndham Northeast Education Association, representing teachers and support staff across our districts, and in particular at Grafton Elementary and Westminster Center School. We are very concerned about the impact of the dismissal of 36 of our support staff across the districts of WNESU on our students and on our schools in the coming year. As we anticipate that our students will be needing more support than ever this fall, it is not wise to be cutting back on these necessary resources and supports for our students. In our elementary schools, support staff paras provide services to students in a variety of ways. Their work includes supervising small groups of students, as well as working with students one-on-one as needed. They have important roles in our kindergarten and first grade classrooms, where more adult supervision is important for both safety and to provide a positive academic environment. Some provide reading support. Some provide a safe, calm place for students who are not able to be in the classroom. We understand that the budget is anticipating a financial shortfall and has been looking at ways to trim the budget. I'm sorry, we understand that the board is anticipating a financial shortfall and looking at ways to trim the budget. We understand the desire to mitigate the economic challenges facing so many people and institutions. Here is what we do not understand. If our board has just voted last week to submit to the voters a budget which was created by our principals and our board, a budget that includes general ed paras, and if our towns support these budgets, why can't our school district keep these paras who support our students and our schools? We want to make sure that the board and our community are aware of the ramifications that will come with the dismissal of approximately 42% of our support staff. We understand that we have a higher number of support staff compared to other districts, and we are also aware of the high needs of our district. We are also proud of the fact that we work hard to meet the needs of our students. Please support our schools and our students and provide us with the resources to support our students who will be returning to school with significant academic, social, and emotional needs. Thank you for your consideration. And I have signed this, as I said, on behalf of the leadership committee of WNEA. We don't have a president, we have a team that works together. And I am also on the ad hoc committee, which is a group that is meeting regularly with administration during this time. We meet weekly now to try to work together to solve all of the extra issues that keep coming up.
Understood. All right, now I'm going to invoke the David Clark rule, which is to remind everyone as we go forward that public comment is not the same thing as an agenda item. It very well may be that we choose to put this issue up as an agenda item. More likely, it's going to be an issue in the negotiations discussions. So I'm cautioning my colleagues not necessarily to get into a debate as to the merits of this, but we do want to hear you out. If there are other members in attendance tonight that would like to add their comments, this is probably your time to speak, and I'll try to recognize you in turn. I think Dina probably covered most of you, but you may want to speak in addition, and if you do, tell me.
Jack?
Yes, Don?
Yeah, I'm new to this advisory committee stuff. Is this our only part during the meeting where we participate other than just watching?
Well, the goal of the advisory committee is a couple things. One is to occasionally prepare reports to your select boards to whom you report. The second is, should the consolidation be unwound, I expect you to take the lead role helping in that process. And both our members individually and I in particular will probably contact you on a semi-regular basis for things where we need help. For example, you may have heard we're going to have an election, and I'm hoping to speak with all of you about helping take the lead in getting this thing organized and off the ground, and helping both us and our town clerks make it work. So that's a good example of where you can be a huge, huge help to all of us. Is that sufficiently disappointing as an answer?
No, that's fine. The other comment I had, the governor about a week and a half or so ago was suggesting to all the boards to scrap their budgets and start over again in August. I'm not sure he's clear on the fact that we need information for the state tax rate, but I'm wondering, some of these cuts that were mentioned earlier, I'm wondering if it's in response to the governor's challenge or what?
Yeah, I think that we will probably revisit this whole issue one more time at a future select board meeting. Hopefully, I mean, a select board, school board meeting. Hopefully we'll have more information and be able to respond a little more in a little more informed way. And as I say, we will probably bring this up because I think it's going to be an issue until the beginning of the school year. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to ask or say? I'm not seeing a hand. If you are, just turn your speaker off and yell. Dempsey, I see your hand.
Well, my greatest concern is our students. And without the services that are provided by the paras, either in title roles, special ed roles, or regular ed roles, what is the bottom line as far as the students are concerned? They are our highest priority, and I think we're going to leave the ones that need the most assistance hanging. And what does that mean in the future for them? That is my question.
A fair question. I'm increasingly thinking that we will put this up as an agenda item before in the near future, and just kind of review it. I did send a response note as part of my welcome to Dana about this issue. I would urge to share it with you. I think that if we do bring it up as an agenda item or in negotiations discussions, I think it summarizes both what we can and what we cannot properly do to respond to some of this material, and that's something I'll hope that you all look at when we talk again, as we no doubt will. Is there anyone else? And again, if you're, oh, I see Crystal Webster's hand up. Crystal?
Hi, I'm a parent of the Grafton School. And I'm just here basically to also echo the teachers. A lot of concern next year regarding the paras and the support after this, whatever we're calling it, quarantine time. We're taking more familiar faces away from these students when we're coming back to chaos. On top of that, a change in administration, whatever gets decided with Liz. As a Grafton parent, we have a lot of concern.
Thank you very much for that. And the leadership of the schools is an agenda item, so that will be a subject of more conversation, and you're welcome to chip in if you wish to. Anyone else? I'm polling through lots of people here. Only see hands. If you may have to shout if this is something you need to speak up. Seeing a lot of polite people, I'm going to move on to reports unless there's an objection. So reports start with Superintendent.
Jack,
Go ahead.
this is Cheryl. Point of order. We just do need to review and approve the board minutes for April 16th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I switched my 3 and 4. I've had a very long day. I'm counting on Cheryl to remind me where the heck I am because it's been bad. Yes, review and approve board minutes for April 16th, 2020. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. This is Cheryl.
All right. Any discussion? Jessup?
No, I'll just second that motion if you need it.
No, I do. We never adopted small boards. Going on, any discussion from anybody? All right. What was that? Not hearing any from members. I'll go to a vote. All in favor? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we've got a majority. Thank you all. Let me just go quick check to record. Melissa, did you wave your hand? You wave your hand yes or no? Or there we go. Thank you. All right. So minutes are approved. Now we will go on to 5 reports without objection. And the first one is 5A, Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent. Who wants to go first?
Lynn, why don't you start off and I'll chime in afterwards.
Okay, so you all have the superintendent's report in your packets. And the only thing, I have to add to that is that you'll see in the packet a letter we sent home to the families, encouraging them in their journey as they work with their students at home, trying to continue the hard work of having students present and working. And even though it's a short amount of time during the day, it's really important that those students have that routine in their lives, the same as they would had they been in school. It's good for their social emotional as well as their academic health. And so we're really trying to thank the parents for the work they've done and continue encouraging them, because we know it's hard. We're all exhausted with it. So
yeah. I don't mean to cut you off. I did see sort of an eyebrow raised from Lynn and Charles when you talked about the packet. Lynn, Charles, were you able to find the packet? Because I know it's not always easy to find stuff.
I wasn't with the minutes, and I guess I didn't look in the proper place for it.
We really are going to have to work
on the minutes and everything coming together, and so I didn't find them.
This isn't a continuing issue. We are going to have to work on making certain packets are in places where people can find.
I'll make a point to take care of that, Jack. Yeah, I'll make a point to take care of that.
Okay, Lynn?
Yeah.
It's just that I didn't look in the right place.
I thought it would be there, but I do think that it is posted on the WNESU site under the superintendent's blog.
I will.
And it is. It's at the very bottom of the page at the superintendent's blog.
What might be helpful is if on the agenda, the packet location is noted
URL.
To jog those of us that have forgetful memories. I agree. And I'm sorry, I didn't know. But we will be, tomorrow, first thing, we'll be making sure that happens.
I will note for the record that our colleague Jessica West Clark, she may have hoped I forgot, but I didn't forget that she had offered at one point to help with usability. I don't know how much time she really has given the year here, but if she's willing and you're willing, I'm going to play Yenta a little bit and hope that y'all can get together because she's really good at this stuff. She told me she was, so I know about it too.
Yeah.
No, but I did offer to help. I will help organize the Google Drive if you would like. I think if we made some folders with dates and made things a little easier to find.
And I think starting July 1, we're kind of reorganizing the office anyway. And I think that that's going to be the most perfect opportunity for us to really, so that we know for sure where things are going.
Now that I've totally interrupted you and thrown you off your train of thought, Carrie, would you like to continue?
That's sort of where I am. I don't know if Chris can add.
Chris, you're up as soon as you unmute.
Yeah, I wanted to give a few updates. We have my weekly meeting with Secretary of Education. All the superintendents do every Thursday. So there are a few additions to the superintendent's report that I posted in my blog. So as you all know, some of you may not, is the governor did extend the state of emergency until June 15th of this year. More recently, the state health department is feeling, and this is recent today, is it looks like the group size that is currently in place for 10 under the current rules that we have for keeping our distance in small groups is going to be moved to 25 in early June. So we can anticipate that the group size will go from 10 to 25. I think at this point, every little bit helps. The summer program for CDC guidance that came out from the federal, that's for private, not public programs that came out. And what we're finding is that the CDC guidelines that were released for the public are not really all that practical for having students back in the schools. And the Vermont AOE and the local CDC will be creating specific guidelines for schools. I'm sure we'll see a lot of similarities between the federal CDC guidelines and what we create. But a lot of the guidelines that they have in there really aren't practical when you're talking about, especially the younger students or students who are struggling in different ways. It's expecting them to, keep 6-foot distances at recess, 1 seat to a bus. It's just not practical. State's aware of that, and so they're going to be working on that further. We're going to be waiting to see what the guidelines will be for summer programs and ESY sometime next week, so people have to stay tuned on that. Currently, what it's probably going to look like is that we're in the process is we do want to look at what it looks like for offering summer programs and extended school year programs for students who may have IEPs, but it's going to be still offered through the current model that we have right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put out surveys to all families to check to see what the interest still is offering the summer programs and extended year programs for students under the current model. Because, people are getting tired and exhausted in regards to being online all the time. And we might not have enough interest in the summer programs if it's through the, through online that we currently see. So we're looking into that and seeing what the interest is for that. The fall opening for school has not been decided yet. We have as superintendents, we haven't gotten any indications whatsoever in regards to the direction that the schools are going to be open. I think at the very least, if they are opened, we'll be looking at some sort of hybrid model. And so, again, the superintendents, not just in the state, but in the region, and I'll look on something like that and how that's going to look. We will continue our summer meals program throughout the summer to make sure that kids and families are still getting provided their food. And we'll probably be following a very similar way of distributing the meals as we are now. Holly will be working on that with this food service program. The state has seen an increase in the homeschool applications, which is no surprise. And so just want everyone to be aware of that. And right now, any of you who've listened to Governor Scott's, one of his most recent addresses, that he said that we need to find ways to reduce spending and bridge the $170 million budget gap so property taxes don't have to be increased by 25 to 30 cents. A cut in education spending is on the table. So that goes along with the same, I believe, the same speech where he, was talking about bringing all the school boards to go back and revote on budgets. So that's the latest as of today. Like I said, can continue to add to the report, but things continue to change on a regular basis. And that's it.
I'm going to pull my board if they've got questions. I actually have two. I see Jessa raise her hand, I think. Or maybe she just swatted at something. You go ahead, Jessa.
I did raise my hand. I was just going over the superintendent's report, and I saw something that the state is looking into or recommending Canvas for professional development software. And Canvas isn't limited to professional development, but I wish the state would engage another department of their own state in that the entire Vermont State College system switched to Canvas last year. So they have a pretty good idea of how it works, I would think. If anybody's taken online classes with Moodle, it's basically the same. It just struck me that they said they're looking into it. They have looked into it, and that they had their entire college system adopt it. That's my comment.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else among my colleagues? See, I'm switching back and forth. I see Melissa shaking her head no. See Cheryl not responding yet, I don't think. Lynn, Charles, got two items just because I was asked to bring them up. One was from Peter McHenry Stam, and you mentioned the summer program, and this was actually supposed to be a budget item, and the item was what provisions do we make for rising 7th graders in terms of summer programs? I believe he has a rising 7th grader and wants to know who owns that in terms of summer and support programs. And I really didn't have an answer and felt embarrassed because I thought I should. Chris or Lynn, any thoughts on this? How do we deal with this?
I mean, I can speak maybe just a smidge, Jack, and then Chris and Lynn know more about the SU level stuff. But traditionally in the past, once kids have passed on from 6th grade, their middle schools, if their middle school has a transition or a summer camp of some sort, they become their responsibility. With our programs, because of ESY, which is a supervisory union-based thing, like ESY services would follow them in the same manner that they would otherwise. But Chris and Lynn know more about today's landscape. That's the past landscape.
Yeah, right now, I mean,
rising. Go ahead.
Well, in the past, Doug is accurate. Once they move on from the elementary school, they're at the middle school where they'll be attending, takes on the transition from 6th to 7th grade, and they're usually things tied during the summer. However, as we know right now, is that that's going to look a lot different this year. So we can't give any definites in regards to what summer programs are going to look like, camps or ESY. until we get more guidance from the state. But I can tell you at this point, where we are right now, if we do offer any kind of transitioning summer programs, ESY, it will need to be through our current model of delivery of what we're seeing right now, which is the online stuff, which is unfortunate. But that's what we have to for options right now, keeping all the kids still separated and safe.
I think it was mostly the question was for who to go to ask about it for rising 7th graders, and to a somewhat lesser extent for rising kindergartners who they thought might benefit from programs. And as I said, I felt embarrassed because I didn't have a good answer. And Cheryl Charles was in the correspondence with me on this. And
So Jack, that would be the middle school administration that their students attending.
Okay.
And anyone going from pre-K to kindergarten, we can call up to the central office.
Sounds good. I just needed to have an answer.
Yep. In pre-K, they can also use Jennifer as a resource as well. Going for, they have transition from pre-K to kindergarten, and Jennifer usually organizes that with the building principals and the kindergarten teachers.
Excellent. Thank you. I just wanted to have an answer, and I think you provided it. And I'm so tired I've forgotten what the other question was, so it probably didn't matter. We've covered the. Do you want to talk about changes? It says WNESU office report, leadership changes, emergency medical planning update. Do we want to move on to those items, or I think I know the principal issue is of great, I can't think of the word. There's a great deal of interest attached to that, and I know Lynn in particular has worked hard with Liz to try to craft something to sort of split the various concerns that people had and come up with a solution. Do you guys, Lynn, do you want to talk to this, or who wants to talk to this?
Sure. So I'm going to, I had sent this out last night to the board members, so they're aware. But for all the people out there, I'm going to share my screen and see if I can, let's see, is it this one? Let's see. Yeah, this one. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull it over from, okay. So just to briefly, before any questions, we had gone back and forth, and Jack knows this, many times. And Liz has been right there with me, and we've really tried to meet the concerns and the needs of the board, the students, the community. So we do know that everyone felt strongly that there would be a body at the Grafton School all day. So there would be some kind of certified administrator at Grafton School all day, in case anything happens. So we came up with 2 scenarios, and both of them involve having a certified administrator all day on the campus. And then of course they'll have me, most definitely me and Liz, but only the teaching assistant principal. As you can see, we broke out the cost. Now this isn't exact, but we're expecting 45 students next year at Grafton. So a half-time assistant principal would be about $833 per student. This assistant principal would be at the school all day, but also be teaching. It would be like a teaching principal. Liz would support this teaching assistant principal and would serve as the overarching principal of the school. But all daily operations will be handled at the school level by the assistant principal. If something comes up, she has Liz, she has me. He or she has Liz or me. And the administrative duties would be roughly from, 8 to 11. And then the teaching would be from like 11:30 to 3. So if she's in the classroom, she'll team teach, doing whole group instruction in small groups, and working with another classroom teacher, or we'll be doing, we'll have to work that out. But they'll be teaching, but the idea will be they'll be available all day in the building if an administrator is needed. So the assistant principal is certified and available all day. So the cost would be about $37,500. We haven't really set any exact cost because a lot depends on the background and how much experience a person would have. And then we would have a teacher salary, which is roughly on the upper middle, $32,500. So that would cost roughly about $70,000, and that's what I base the $833 on. And the actually no, the $37,500 is what I base that on. Right now, Liz is making $91,000. That will go away. So the district would probably save $21,000, but they'll have an extra teacher, knowing that they have a full-time administrator. And then we did a scenario where it would be a full-time principal, and that would be $1,667 per student, the administrative cost. And again, they would hire a full-time principal, and this new full-time principal would be responsible for the 45 students and running of the school, and is a certified administrator, and the cost would be $75,000 for a full-time principal. The savings would be $91,000, and so the final savings to the district would be about $16,000. So any questions? So we have two. We have a part-time teaching principal, assistant principal, or a full-time principal. So Lynn.
I just want to, before I start going around Robin, and I see I've got a question already from a couple of folks. My understanding was we were trying to split, trying to figure out what people wanted. I know there's been a great deal of sentiment in Grafton about how much people really hate losing Liz, even an hour of her time. At the other hand, the fact that that administration has the right and even the obligation to move talented administrators where they can do the most good in the institution. We wanted to provide you with the two options because A, you said you wanted to make them, and B, this is legitimately something you get to weigh in on. With that said, I'm going to see if I can find a way to see Melissa's comment. I'm having a little trouble seeing it. When you may have to relinquish your screen so I can see the comment of Melissa.
I can read it, Jack, if you want.
Would you mind doing that? Thank you.
So for Melissa, curious what happens if a student has a need between 11:30 and 3, and has there been data collected to know what times students, parents, and teachers most frequently utilize principal support?
So we have done across the district, pretty much all the schools have done across the district some Swiss data, which is our incident reporting data. And I think any administrator would tell you a lot of things happen first thing in the morning. Parents come in, kids come in, something happened last night, something, that sort of thing. Things happen at playground as well, but they continue to happen all day. So 11:30 to 3, you would have an administrator there if the administrator was needed. So if two students got into a kerfluffle in a classroom and they needed to pull the teaching principal would be there to handle that issue. Call the parents, through with the kids, just to restore practicing and, you know, kind of levy whatever consequences are needed. So, but it's hard pinpointing. One of our schools, I think, said that Thursday afternoons in May were the worst. So I think I think the needs, I think if you're a principal, it's probably first thing in the morning, getting everyone organized. If a teacher's out sick, there's no sub, who's going to cover, what's going to happen. But that's the flexibility of having someone there all day to take care of those things.
I need to ask you, Lynn, you have these two recommendations, because I do want to get a motion on the floor. Between option 1 and option 2, what is administration's recommendation?
Personally, well, I'm going to say administratively, I'm going to let Chris speak to that.
Okay, Brett.
Based on this right here, I would recommend full-time.
The full-time 160,667 administrative costs per student. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's like I've said all along, the part-time principal, you can save money, but the bottom line is you can't predict when everything's going to happen. And something can always be compromised if you have someone who's teaching and being a principal. I think it can be done, but I think if you have choices of 2 options, right now the full-time principal would be the better option.
All right. I see a comment from Crystal Webster, which is, does full-time mean we lose Liz completely?
Yes.
Thanks, Chris.
I think people have to realize in this decision, it wasn't just an administrative decision that, Grafton's a small school, and I was, said, Liz, you have no choice. You have to go to Westminster. That was the initial step. We have a great principal with Liz, and I wanted her to give her the option because, we do have that leeway to move people around within the district, and she accepted it. And so that's how all that went down. It wasn't that Liz was forced to move to Westminster. I think from her part, it's a move that, you got to take a lot of things into consideration personally and professionally when you're moving from a school of 45 students to a school with 170 plus students. So people, keep in mind that, if this isn't something that Liz wanted to pursue, then, it would have been opened up and we'd still be having the same conversation, I'm sure, based on part-time versus full-time. But it wasn't just a decision, an administrative decision to say, Liz, you're moving, too bad, we don't care. It was a professional conversation that we had, and everyone felt that was in the best interest for Liz.
I am going to, for the purposes of moving this along, I'm going to move that that the board accept the recommendation of the administration and bring on board a full-time principal at an estimated cost of $75,000 with a projected administrative cost of $1,667 per student, and anticipated final savings to the district of $16,000. I'm now opening the floor for discussion. Is there any discussion? Jessa?
Liz's current salary is $91,000 before benefits. Is that correct?
It is, and that was a salary that was set by Chris Kibbe, and it just it just wasn't appropriate for the building. But at the time there were more students. I think there was almost 80, but now it's down to 45. So you have to take that into consideration. But yes, currently Liz is making $91,000 plus benefits.
So even if the salary is 75, then there's benefits on top of that. But do you think we can get a high quality principal for 75,000? And are principal salaries usually prorated by the number of students in the building?
Yes.
Usually, but I think for a building size of 45 students, I think $75,000 would be appealing to, quite a few, pool of candidates out there. I mean, it's tough right now to find, experienced principals. But yeah, they're out there, Jessa, and I think 75,000 is the going rate for a school that size.
Dempsey, I see your hand up, but I'm going to ask my board members to pitch in first, and then we will get to you, I promise. Lynn and Charles, are there any thoughts on this?
Nothing that comes up yet.
No. All right. Cheryl, I see your hand up. And Cheryl, we're having a little trouble hearing you for whatever reason.
Sorry, I had my phone on mute. Thank you. I support the recommendation of the administration to have a full-time principal. And I would say to the general public who's listening, community members who we value and who are a part of this, it is correct that the current budget to be taken to the public does include 2 full-time principals. When we last talked with the administration about this, we asked them to come back with a recommendation, and they've done that now. I do have a question about whether, I think this might have been advertised, but will it be further advertised after a decision is made tonight, after a vote's taken? I'm asking this to Chris and Lynn.
We actually have more than enough candidates. We actually advertised it as a full-time position and a part-time position, and we have more than enough candidates to interview. So
we did that to make sure that not knowing the direction we were going, we'd rather take a proactive approach rather than waiting for a decision and then have to post it and start from stage 1. So it's been on School Spring, and like Dr. Carey said, we do have a number of candidates who are interested in very qualified candidates.
Is that process still open?
Yes.
Okay, and it will be until, I'm asking.
As soon as we get your, the board's vote and the direction they want to go in, we need to start interviewing. So.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think we're all awaiting what the Supreme Court decides. We know that we need a full-time person in the building. I agree with the superintendent that you can't really be a part-time principal, and we've had this discussion before. So I personally do support the recommendation to hire a full-time principal.
Melissa,
no.
I know you. Are you good? Is there anything else? You can send us a little email if you want, or whatever. I see a smile. I'm going to take that as we're good. All right. I think it's obvious to a lot of folks that I've been lobbied pretty hard to find ways to have Liz have a presence at the school, and the part-time seemed like both consistent with saving money and with doing that. But I did tell our administration I was one of 6, and I also believe strongly that we should support our administrators' recommendations. Dempsey, I see your hand. I did see your hand up. Do you still want to speak? And you'll have to unmute yourself. I'm sorry. Or Lynn will have to unmute you. I don't know which it is. Lynn, can you unmute Dempsey? Yep. Thank you.
Are we letting members of the greater public speak on this? I didn't know.
I generally think if we can do it to a limited degree, it's always good. Open meetings, I also think should be, to the extent we can do it, open participation, bearing in mind that it's 7:30 and
yeah, and we're only on number 2.
Really, I'm going to close the shop down at 9. Yeah.
Double check. I'm just trying to.
Dempsey looks like she's open.
Oh, good.
Okay. So at the beginning of the meeting, I had concerns, and then I listened to Chris, and I thought I agreed with him that maybe the best solution was in fact a full-time position for an administrator in Grafton. I don't know their data on behavior and what that looks like with such a small community. And having a part-time position there that includes teaching in the afternoon and what that entails. So I'm looking at the numbers and I'm thinking of my colleagues that are going to be cut and wondering where the balance is.
That too much.
Pardon?
I said, I want to caution that this is not labor negotiations. It's this specific spot, but continue on.
Right. But my feeling is that with 45 students, that possibly there isn't as many behavior issues that involve a principal compared to other buildings within the district. And I believe that money could be better spent on paras that provide specific instruction to our students that are most in need.
Thank you. I see Lynn's hand up, and I'm going to read a note from after Lynn. Jess has got a note that I'm going to read. Lynn, you're up. You have to unmute yourself.
There we go. This is a question for Liz in reference to the number of students that she needs to deal with. What is her feeling on part-time versus full-time and the needs of the students, even though we have a small body?
Well, historically, when Grafton has had enrollment in the 40s, which it will have next year, it's had a teaching principal. So if you think back about the history of Grafton Elementary, and I think as far as dealing, if you had an assistant principal in that position in dealing with student behavior or being available for students and families, you would just have to build systems in your school that would support a part-time administrator and just know the scheduling and supports available. The behavior data for us, like Lynn said, was more elevated in the morning. That's definitely what our Swiss said. But again, like I heard during this meeting, you never really can guarantee when you're going to be needed or when you're not going to be needed. But I would agree with Dempsey that the behaviors in a school of 45 students obviously are not as elevated as an average size school.
I see Chris Pratt's hand up. And Chris, before you do it, I just want to quickly read the notes. Jessa asked if this will be an administrative hire or there'll be a search committee. In other words, are you going to make the decision? Do you want us to participate in it? So I think the bottom line here.
I think anytime that you're hiring a position like this, it needs to be, I'm sure Dr. Carey would agree, needs to be inclusive of having a committee put together. We did a very thorough one in Saxton's River, and I would anticipate that we would do the same thing for Grafton. We just have to tweak it, and because a lot of it will be, if not most, all of it would be through technology based and stuff. I think what I wanted to add is that we have two options here. I mean, I've never supported, and I think Jack remembers the conversation in regards to a teaching principal in a school for a lot of the reasons that we discussed earlier. I think there is another option here, is where you have a full-time, a part-time principal, and whether and base it on whether they're for half a day or full day, so many days a week. I mean, that is another option. But I've never been fond of the teaching principal model. Other SUs that I've been superintendent for, I've seen it. It makes it very difficult on the teachers to have to leave the classroom to take care of discipline problems. Even if it's one discipline problem, that one discipline problem could take a couple hours depending on the level of severity and stuff. So I think you could have a part-time principal but it shouldn't be a teaching position. So I would throw that on the table as well, not to add more confusion to the matter, but
although it does.
if we're really looking at this, I mean,
So-
I would go with either, you know, a full-time principal or a half-time principal, but
And
I don't want the teaching thing involved.
Gotcha.
Essentially, that's what we're saying. It's a part-time principal. And then when they're not teaching, when they're not being a principal till 11:30, then they're just teaching. So they're in the building all day, but they're principal for part-time.
That's the non-recommended version, correct?
Yeah, I mean, what I see with that, when it's the same person, that's when you run into problems, because you run into problems because that those separation between I'm teaching now and a principal now can get blurred as time goes on. You know, so I mean, it's the two different proposals that we presented to you, but you know, you could look into the first proposal of a teaching principal, is that you could have a third one, is that you could have a part-time. It just wouldn't be a teacher in the building with administrative certification, because like I said, I feel that the lines get blurred very quickly and it starts interfering with the education of students, because when an issue comes up, you never know when it's going to come up. But I think the proposals that you have in front of you are solid, but they can be tweaked to meet the needs of the decision of what the board wants to go with.
All right, thank you. Crystal Weber asked, and I'm going to finish with this. So when they're teaching and an issue happens, who takes out that class? This is, I guess, under the part-time principal model, which is not the recommended model, by the way. She asks, if the teaching an issue happens, who takes over the class? How will they be able to teach a full class under those circumstances? Paraphrasing, but
the teaching principal would not be a classroom teacher. The teaching principal would essentially be an interventionist, or would team teach in a classroom, so that there would always be a classroom teacher, and they would go in and team teach and do small groups while the teacher's teaching. They would team teach. Say they decide they're doing language arts in the afternoon, the teacher would go in, she'd take small groups while the teacher's doing the core curriculum. And if a situation happens, then that teacher would leave an assignment for the students in the small group to complete while she's taking or he's taking care of the students that need assistance. But in the morning, it would just be strict principal duties, because that's when, you need to call the parents, you need to make those arrangements, you need to look at your budget, you need to take care of who's going to teach what class, if there's a substitute. But in the afternoon, when things quiet down, this teacher would be essentially like an interventionist that would go in and team teach in the different classrooms. And because, well, if there's not enough for a principal to keep busy, then this way they're actually helping students.
got it.
Thank you. And I think that was important for the community to hear that breakdown of it.
Maureen Parker has her hand up because she says so on my screen. After she's done, I'm going to ask if my board is ready to call the question. Maureen, if you can.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Jack. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
All right. I think in the past, I don't know, I have a incoming 12th grader next year, and we've gone through 7 principals here in Grafton. And with all the changes that are going on right now in the field of education, I'm going to support Chris Pratt that a full-time administrator out in Grafton is going to be needed to support the curriculum out there, to support the young teachers out there. And I think the community members of Grafton are going to support a full-time principal rather than a part-time, even teaching assistants. We all know what happens in the afternoon after lunch. And you're going to pull in, that I think for at least a year, 2 years, and maybe go then to part-time. But I think in the next few years, having that full-time principal is going to be really important to the students of both Athens and Grafton.
I hope you're outside with a sign saying support the school budget on June 25th. All right. Unless there is an objection by a board member, I am going to call the question. All in favor of the recommendation of the administration to have a full-time principal under the conditions stipulated, giving them the normal discretion about salary and benefits, and please say aye.
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 3 votes on this screen. On Melissa's screen, it says aye. Cheryl's nodding sagely, so I'm guessing that's an aye. I am not going to vote because I kind of stuck my neck out on the other, but I've said right along administration rules and go for it. Thank you very much, everybody. I know this was one people had a great deal of interest in.
Jack, can I add one thing? I want to thank Dr. Carey for the time that she spent with Liz working on this proposal here, because it's not hard to whittle something down that is so complex and such a hot topic. So, you know, I think she did a great job on that and was able to bring something to the public and the board to make a decision. So I want to thank her for that because it was very time consuming to do this.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Chris. And Liz will also, she'll be a support to everyone. So it's just going to be a great team. So we'll make it work. Thanks.
All right. The next item here is emergency and medical planning update. And I'm going to suggest, again, I'm going to try to keep a 5-minute limit on all the items until we get to the election. So emergency medical planning, who owns this? Chris, you or Dr. Carey?
I'm looking for questions. I didn't put it on the agenda. I mean,
it may be a standing item.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Okay, then let's move on because time's wasting. Westminster Principal Report. Drum roll while Doug Kusha speaks.
Wow, that's quite the segue. Thank you. Oh. So yeah, we're rolling right along. We have at Westminster Schools, we started with MBT last week. Our phonics word study. And
acronym alert.
What's that? Phonics. What?
MBT. What is MBT?
Ann BT is a person, and she.
Ann. I'm sorry.
And she's the literacy coach of the district. So, herself and Janie DeStebbins came to a Zoom meeting just to start orienting our staff to Fountas and Pinnell and to that whole system. And we're hoping to do use a little bit of our COVID time here to start getting a little bit ahead of the game. Dr. Carey has a lot of trainings planned for June to get teachers fully trained, but this is sort of to build that background, get that vocabulary kind of under our belts and stuff. So that's been started. Liz and I, along with Keith Nameless and Laura Hazard, the other elementary principals in the SU, worked on the elementary report cards and got those developed. They're a narrative style now, and so that was a lot of work, but good thing to get done. Preliminary plans for Success Night for 6th grade are happening. It's evolving. Last I heard, they're going to be trying to throw something off the top of the fire tower as kids come by. I'm kidding. That was a joke. Just everyone's muted, so no one can laugh. You can't say jokes on Zoom. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Sorry. Anyway, so we are going to, most elementary schools are doing some sort of little mini reverse parade and, just be able to hand the kids a thing, and they can't get out of their cars and anything like that. But again, Liz and I and Dr. Carey and Leah have been working on finalizing our 21C grant application for the next 5 years, really. So we're getting close, and hopefully that'll get approved. And when we can come back, or in whatever capacity after school programs and summer programs can come back, we're hoping to lock that funding up. In fun news, the chicks have hatched, and they've been making their way with Mandy, who's been doing a lot of our garden work, to all the morning meetings, much to the delight of the kids. And we do have a COVID planting day on May 29th planned. So that's pretty awesome. Get the garden going and get that planted. Just keep those things going. So that's obviously due to a lot of work from Mandy and and thanks to her for that. And yeah, I think that's my report.
So where do the chicks go after graduation?
They go to
service, I'm hoping.
they're hens, they're laying hens, and so we're converting the garden shed to have hen boxes, laying boxes. I'm not an expert on these things, and they will go in there and they will lay eggs, which will then be consumed after being cooked. So it's all part of our garden grant thing that we had won last year with Grafton.
Thank you. Liz, you're up next.
Jack, I've got a question for Doug, if I might.
Yes, no, absolutely. I didn't see your hand up. My apologies.
Doug, just one question about the literacy program, the reading program. It's sounding like, I know that we had two different programs, one going on in the Athens Grafton School and one going on in Westminster. Is Westminster now adopting the program that has been used in Athens and Grafton?
Yeah, that's my understanding, that all the elementary schools in the SU are going to be using the F&P classroom starting next year. Dr. Carey was able to use her creative writing powers and get funding for the programs this year through the grant, and so yeah.
Well, we had some intense discussions about this before, and about the ability of each school to kind of use a program that was well suited for it. What I would say with this decision that is we haven't talked about for a long time at the board level, I hope you could keep some of the spirit and the best of what was working with the pilot program you were using in Westminster, and blend it well with the program that Liz and team have enjoyed working with so well.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
Just as a point of information, because this comes up every year on something, and that is that the WNESU board is the ultimate arbiter of education policy, and that's not only just our policy, but it's actually state law that curriculum is owned at the SU level. I certainly understand we celebrate the differences between these programs. We also do want to make certain that kids that wander between Grafton, Athens, Westminster, Rockingham have a program of instruction that's roughly familiar to them. And this is always tough, because you want to individualize to your classroom, but you also want to have some programmatic standards for a whole lot of reasons. So with that comment in mind, I hope I'm not stepping on your point, Cheryl. Probably am. I apologize.
We can move on. That's okay. Thank you.
Hey, Jack, can I pull a Columbo here?
Go.
I have one more thing that I haven't talked about. We have our continuous improvement plan. Yep. We're getting that to the final stages, and we did just meet with our team on Monday, and Melissa was kind enough to join us. We just reviewed our goals, briefly reviewed the data, just kind of keeping you in the loop on that. So we should be bringing you a SIP to improve in June, is what I understand. Thanks.
All right. Liz, I'm addled here tonight. We haven't let you speak yet, have we?
No, that's okay. I can go. A lot of what I was going to say, Doug has already mentioned. The elementary principals have created a narrative report card and shared that with staff. We have been writing the 21st Century Grant, which will hopefully fund summer programming, after-school programming at both sites in Grafton and Westminster. We also reviewed our SIP, our Continuous Improvement Plan. Lynn Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be bringing that, I think, in June to the board for approval. Another, fun news in Grafton is we've been still trying to have some of our annual events virtually. A few weeks ago, earlier in May, Wendy Johnson, our PE teacher, hosted a virtual jump rope for Heart. Last week, we hosted a virtual Spirit Week, complete with Hat Day or Crazy Hair Day, and this culminated with a parade through our community. So thank you so much. It was great to see a lot of our board members out when we were touring through town. That was really wonderful. We are also planning our 6th grade graduation to look a bit differently. It'll have the components that usually happen during graduation, but we will combine those into a video. We're also hosting a drive-by graduation on June 9th. So if any families of sixth graders, outgoing sixth graders, would like to drive through a parking lot to receive their certificate, they can come through. Students who have face masks on can exit the car to receive the certificate. If not, no one is really allowed out of the car, and we're hoping that our staff, since it is small in size, we can social distance throughout the parking lot to cheer on our sixth graders. That is pretty much it, aside from what Doug has already elaborated on.
Thank you very much. Let's see, where are we here? We business manager. I don't know if there are other items, Chris, you want to touch on, except the fact you've hired one.
Yeah, we hired a business manager / CFO. So they'll be starting July 1, taking over for Edie Lucole, who has retired. So we're excited about that. So, you know, I think everyone's looking forward to the time where we can go back to normal operations. I just like to end with that. You should be very proud of your school administrators, the work that they're doing, and the teachers. I mean, it's very impressive. You don't really see what's involved in the day-to-day teaching of students in this format. You're on the clock. You feel like you're on the clock always. Home is work, work is home. But I think you should be very proud of your teachers, everyone within the in the district, because they are the ones doing the work. They are the ones making all this happen. So I wanted to thank them publicly.
So noted. We are on to committees and town boards. We don't have, oh, I see a hand up. Hold on.
I just, Lynn, Darcy Sprague said she's waiting to be let into the meeting. Is she actually waiting to be let into this meeting, or maybe?
I did. I
Okay.
think she's on an iPhone, and I think she's on an iPhone that
Okay.
The problem is my screen was covered with those scenarios, and I wasn't able to see.
Okay. Thanks.
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 Thank you. Sorry.
My apologies. Where were we at? Jess, I didn't catch what you said. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Jack. It was just about someone waiting to get in, and I didn't see them because I had the screen blocked with the scenarios for the principals.
Yep.
So but that person's in now.
Okay, I thought I was getting a call from somebody else trying to get in, and it was about something else. All right. Items E.
Jeff?
Yes.
Just if it's appropriate at this time, I got an email from David Major today, who is one of the Westminster Town Advisory Committee members. Charles Hutchison is on as well. But David wanted it to be said that he is fully supportive of the approach taken to warn the meeting for June 25th and going ahead with the budget as proposed, and had some other ideas for consideration. But our town advisors, and I know we have others on the phone tonight, are engaged and helpful, so we thank them for that. And maybe we'll talk about this a little bit more as we get into the election and the meeting planning.
Yeah, in fact, E3, the advisory committees and commissions, is actually the next item right on our agenda. It is my understanding that Grafton has formally designated their members. I got the list, I think it was all getting blurry. I think it was yesterday, which I appreciate. And I know Westminster's had theirs for a while. And I believe Lynn Morgan can correct me. We have a full list of the Athens folks as well at this point. Dawn being among them, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
It will be my expectation going forward that we will get notifications out to all advisory board members of our meetings, as at least as a courtesy. And there will come a time, probably very soon, where we may call them specifically, because as I said, I am looking for volunteer help. Actually not volunteer, I'm planning on drafting members to help us with the elections process, because it's been pointed out to me volunteers are going to be necessary. So all those folks that signed up for this is your time to regret it. So moving along, I'm going to go on to number 6, old and unfinished businesses.
Jack?
Yes, Lynn, go
So
ahead.
back just a minute to E3. I'm still not understanding how we use or access our committee members. I haven't been able to find out whether if we are to get together, do we have to have a warned meeting? Can we talk among ourselves? You know, what is legal?
Talking among yourselves is absolutely legal because they don't have a standing position in our board. But I do believe that we are, now that everybody has been elected to or selected for their positions, that it's time for me, with you all in attendance, to delineate out a series of specific tasks we would like them to do. They are, and it must be noted, not our committees, but committees of the towns. The towns may have their own agendas, and we're going to respect that. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a shopping list. Part of it is to help with special projects. Part of it is going to be, I think, contingency planning should the districts be unwound back to their original standing by the Supreme Court, because we'll be in an odd position of being a board that isn't, whose legality is a little soft around the edges, and we can, there are things we can do to fix that. And the one I was advised we could do is we could use the advisory boards as in that capacity of putting together a plan. We also are going to, should the Supreme Court vote against us and say, sorry guys, you really are consolidated, we need to look at the Articles of Agreement, and we need to tidy those up because they don't really work for us. And one of the things that we had originally discussed way back in February, January, was the idea of having them function as sort of the old Article 9 committee to help us structure, to be those outside people that a Article 9 committee would be, to help us create a new set of Articles of Agreement. They won't be bored, but I did promise people they wouldn't spend endless hours in committee meeting or endless hours in board meetings. Does that help at all?
Yes, thank you.
Take notes of what I just said, because that's what we wanted to do. All righty, moving along with the permission of my colleagues, and let me just make sure I have the permission of my colleagues. We have Act 40, we are now on to old unfinished business. We don't have a community relations issue. We spoke briefly of governance. The harmonization issue was touched on briefly. Those are other items that we may delegate to the advisory folks as we're comfortable. Let me tell you what you probably already know about the Act 46 lawsuit, which is not a thing has happened. To the best of my knowledge, we're going to be in that situation for a while. The Supreme Court is meeting, but not very often, and I've seen no decisions on anything coming from that body in the last little while. I was told informally that unless it was a screaming emergency, everything that was on their docket might have to wait a bit. And so far that's been true. Without hearing no objection, he says, hopefully, I want to move on to item 7, new business for discussion and action. And the big one is 7A, election meeting and planning. I know that Kim Record is here and has waited an hour and a half for this. And I want to recognize Cheryl Charles, who has done a tremendous amount of the heavy lifting and working particularly with the Westminster folks to pull this together. How do you want to start this, Cheryl? Do you want me to lead or do you want to take this? How do you like to go?
Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I think maybe I can just say something quickly, and then I would really appreciate Kim Record, the clerk in Grafton, to weigh in a little bit too. But after a great deal of discussion, it's been made very clear to us from the state that we need to have an election, that we need to create the opportunity for the citizens of our towns to vote on a budget, and that budget has been approved by the board and developed by the principals and others, as was noted earlier. And we decided in our most recent meeting to go ahead with the amount of the full budget. We put that in a warning. We had to work to make sure that a meeting could be warned with sufficient time to meet the legal requirements. And that led us to a decision to have a vote by Australian ballot rather than in a public meeting during this time of COVID-19. So June 25 is the date that has been established. With that in mind, the vote would be, again, a ballot, an Australian ballot, where people would need to vote on the paper document. We discussed a lot of different scenarios. Could it possibly be simply a mail-in? Could it be a combination, a hybrid of as few people as possible in a public polling place? In addition, maybe having a drive-through approach. In addition, absentee ballots would still be possible and available. And I have to say that the clerks in all of the towns have been extremely helpful to us, as has the state Secretary of State's office and Will Sinning, who's responsible for elections, or at least helping guide us all on that. Where we are now is June 25 is the date. The towns are tending to have a polling site, which they're required to have, be the fire stations. As an example, in Westminster, we're not allowed to use the Westminster Institute. We're not allowed to use the school buildings. So the fire department in Westminster, the fire department in Grafton, and I'm not sure the location in Athens, but will be made available with the idea as few people as possible coming in person, with the physical distancing rules in place, with people's safety and welfare top of mind, at the same time honoring people's rights to vote. So that's a quick summary. We'd be happy to try to take questions. We're figuring this all out real time. And Kim, I wonder if you'd build on what I just said and add to it a little bit, please.
You pretty much covered it, Cheryl. Yes, our fire department has approved of it. I figured it was a very large open area, nice and airy. In my case, I'm going to allow probably 2 voters at any one given time into the actual open large building. My scenario is going to be a one-way in and a one-way out. I am going to ask that some sort of supply, either from the school board or from us, to supply pens, and they're to take them with them. It's less cleaning. I'm hoping to have a barrier, which we have plenty of barriers set up so they stay 6 to 8 feet from us at check-in and the same at check-out. I plan on having 2 ballot clerks, per se, or officials that will be standing by each of the booths. So when one person does leave, they're there with a squirt bottle. They squirt the one area, sit back down, and then the next person will come in. I feel I can manage that so much easier than I can to have any kind of a drive up. Absentees, yes, we have to abide by absentees and obligate them, but my feeling is I don't want to push absentees. I don't want to promote them as much as possible. I think that's a lot of handling of paper. It's a lot mailing the requests coming in, then us sending them out, then them coming back in, and the whole counting process. And I'm thinking of the mail workers also. I mean, it's putting them in jeopardy. We have to take absentees, but I just as soon not say that's the way to go. I'd like to see the in-person mainly. I'm hoping to have plenty of protective PPEs. I've been talking and getting the masks, the shields, And our counting will be done right there. We're a hand count town. We're not a tabulated town. So there'll be plenty of open space for us to be able to count the ballots. And Grafton's small with 515 on our checklist. It's not going to be a huge turnout. Our primaries aren't huge turnouts. Our town meetings are maybe a little bigger. It's the general that's the big one. So I think we're going to be okay. My challenge is going to be my ballot workers. Most of my BCA is at that age that, you know, is in jeopardy. I'd like to see maybe a little bit younger, but I got to work through that. But it'll work for sure.
Just to fill in the couple things I've got, I did talk to Darlene, right? I have trouble with names. In Westminster, we did say that if she wanted to have it at town hall, but she kind of hoping we might have a tent. And I said, if you need a tent, we'll probably find a tent. If you want a tent out in front and helps at all, Kim, we can certainly do that. If you want to keep people away from the interior of the fire station, just let me know. The one thing I got from Will Senning, who I've been in correspondence with more than any person ever wanted to be in correspondence with another person, is that his main concern at this point is to be sure that the towns use roughly the same protocols, that one town there should be no impediments from one town to the next in terms of equal access to voting. I probably need to get you all in a virtual room, make sure we've got everything nailed down. And I again want to state for the record that our board did cop to covering your costs, however you define them. Hopefully, you know, not to the point of, you know, making a fortune on it, but certainly cover your costs. And that's where we stand at this point. We are prepared, if you all collectively want to underwrite a absentee ballot application mail out, but I will take my direction from whatever the three of you agree on, because all I care about at this point is equality of access. You know, I may have my own opinions, but my opinions aren't relevant. It's your mutual comfort level that will rule the day. So that's kind of where we're rocking and rolling these days. Any comments, funny observations, scolding by my board? Seeing none on this screen, I'll go see if anybody wants to yell at me on this one. Oh, wonderful. I gotta love it. Again, my thanks to Cheryl, Kim, who's occasionally been both a voice of restraint and sanity in the process. It's occasionally got a little wild. Also, I want to recognize Chris Pratt, who did some very useful limit setting over the last several days. And we would still be in a tangle if he had not stepped up to the plate in the way that he has. So often he does stuff that is not understood or appreciated, and this was a real case in point. So thank you, Chris. We're now on 7B, and it's also 8 o'clock. So tell me what we've got on professional administrative staffing plan. Do we have something else we've got to do, Chris, besides the plan involving the principal?
Nothing I'm aware of.
Happiness is mine. Now we do have the paraprofessional staffing plan update, if there is any. We certainly have heard from our colleagues who hold some of those positions, as well as many of their teaching colleagues. Is there anything we need to add to what has been discussed tonight at this point? Is there any details that you feel need to share?
I wouldn't mind adding, just making a small comment, Jack, is that there's so much up in the air, and looking at the amount of paras that we laid off, it was not an easy decision. I'm sure that people are smart enough to understand that. And based on, we don't know how long we are going to be in this current status of distant learning. And in all actuality, when distant learning, we just don't need the bodies, whether we want to accept it or not, we just don't need as many bodies in the current status of learning right now. Once we get back into the buildings and what that's going to look like, I would assume that we will have to recall some people from that paras that were laid off because, we're right. We're going to be dealing with a lot of issues with students. But right now, as a superintendent, not knowing how long we're going to be in this current status, I'm basing decisions based on what we currently have right now. I can't predict the future. All I can do is what we are right now. Once we're back in schools, yeah, things are going to change. And, we're probably going to most likely have to recall some of those people from the seniority list. And that's all we can say right now is people have to understand it's not based on what we need down the road. It's based on what we need right now and in the fall, knowing that we don't know how long we're going to be in this current status. So, I just wanted to put that out there. I understand the concerns from not just Westminster, Athens, and Grafton people, but in general, the impact that this is going to make. But under the current status right now, this is this difficult decision that I had to make because we don't need as many employees to give the instruction through the current way that we're providing instruction. But once things change, we're going to go back and revisit it. Nothing's set at stone, and it can't be at this point. But decisions have to be made, and decisions that a lot of times in circumstances like this, they're not the most popular decisions. Trust me, they're not decisions that I wish I had to make either. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I thought that we could just go by without doing something at this point. And we don't have a lot to work with. So I just wanted to put that out there, and appreciate everyone taking the time to go in the meeting tonight. But these are difficult circumstances all around, and we're going to keep adjusting as we go.
Just so that, Chris has been very good about this issue. I do have to say, this has not been something he's decided on his own. It is ultimately his decision, but when this first happened, when we went to virtual teaching, when it became clear that the entire teaching model was going to be a problem, when it became clear that we were getting alarms being set off literally daily by the Joint Fiscal Office, the state, I was one of the board members who came to him and said, what are we going to do? And suggested to him that we might have to take a look at these issues because the tasks that people were assigned pre-COVID and the tasks that we had in front of us in the middle of the epidemic were different. I don't want him to get all the darts. I'm standing up and saying, if you need to throw a few, I'm here. And I think many of our board chairs would tell you the same thing. There's nothing about this that does suck. And we do hope in many cases it'll be temporary, but I just want you to know this was a collaborative decision, and any board chair who says to you it wasn't, well, they're trying to tell you something nice, but I won't. I want you to be, when we're in this position, we need to stand up for it. Do I see any hands up on this, or can I move along from my board colleagues? I'm taking as permission to move along. Digital access update. I think we covered that earlier. That was the whole issue of whether or not the website was as accessible as we would like it. Do I have everybody's permission to move on? Good. Town hall meetings. I have not got those together yet, but I hope to do so early next week. I've created much of the digital material and my wife made fun of it, so I've got to clean it up a little bit so that it's presentable, and I will commit to having that done middle of the week. That's my Memorial Day project. Communications protocol with staff and teachers. Anybody know what that is? Because I don't recall.
Jack, I think that's an old item that could have been removed from the agenda.
Okay, I'm going to skip on the code of conduct issue, I think the meeting's running too long already. We covered the summer education and rising seventh grader. That was Peter Stam's concern. I think we have I have something I can send back to him with everyone's collective permission, unless Cheryl wants to do the writing. Guessing that's mine. All right. Have we done the LEAP thing? I thought we did that before. I thought we've, in fact, I think I signed that, didn't I, Chris? The LEAP plan and authorization of the chair. We're good on that.
Yes.
Now, all right. Sue Lockerbie, are you still with us? I apologize for dragging this out forever. Sue, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for hanging in with us tonight. I hope it was educational, if not scintillating.
Absolutely.
Sue had brought, as you all recall, Sue, start from the beginning, we had approved an early retirement incentive at the WUENS, whatever, alphabet soup district meeting a couple of weeks ago. We attempted to get some consistency on it, found that that our recommendation to recognize people retiring because of COVID got admixed in with teachers that had already announced retirement for different reasons back in the early part of the summer or early part of the fall. And as a consequence, we did not get a unified policy across the boards. So we have this quandary. On one hand, we don't have a unified early retirement incentive program in place. On the other hand, the boards still have the ability to, on an individual case-by-case basis, approve early retirements. They're usually done before April 15th. Actually, they're done more like March, aren't they, Lynn? Chris, when do we normally do these things?
Do the early retirements? Yeah. I think in the CBA, on the current language, October 1st, I think, is the deadline.
October 1.
October,
Right.
yeah.
October 1.
So as earlier, Susan sent out a note a couple weeks ago asking for early retirement and for consideration for the stipend that we did discuss, and has pointed out that we do have the right to have one. Sue, go for it.
Yes, I was just going to say that the October 1st, deadline is part of the regular CBA. Right. And I would have been asking for this, whether David Clark had come up with that, trying to increase the retirement, and then the voting started and then things failed. This isn't a result of that circumstance. It's just a result of what's in the contract and what I basically have the right to request.
Okay, thank you for that. I will say that we had some debate. I had some debate with the administration as to whether this was a proper item to bring up, but I always feel when in doubt, I'll bring it up. My personal view, I will state, because since I brought this up, is that COVID is a game changer for some of our older staffers. I don't know how comfortable I would be going back in the building under any circumstances. And I think that having people in my family that are nurses, partly inspired by people like Sue Lockerbie, I know the risks that they take are an order of magnitude greater because the type of physical contact they're in with people that are sick all the time. So the question is one of both hearing the administration's recommendation in the matter and then making a determination. I have to say, I'm not comfortable with the fact that it's a public discussion, but I don't know whether or not we can make it an executive session discussion or not. If someone has a recommendation on executive session, Chris, go for it.
Jack, I would say it's something like this. I would leave it up to Susan if she would want to go into executive session. It is a personal matter in regards to her request, and so I would recommend the board follow her lead in regards to what she would like to see.
There you go, Susan. I think that's fair. What do you want to do?
I hoping that there will be a nice, thoughtful discussion. I would prefer that this go into executive session.
Then I will entertain a motion to go into executive session by one of my colleagues.
So moved.
Ben, thank you. I need a second. I got a first. Do I got a second? I got a second for Charles. Thank you, guys.
Jack, this is Cheryl. I wonder if, since we're going to lose so many members of the public, I wonder if we might just thank everybody, and because we don't have other business, I think, when we can do, or at least not a great deal more.
Let us do director's comment and a thank you. And so why don't we do that round robin? Since you're the top of my screen, Lynn, why don't you go first if you don't mind? Public comment, your director's comment, if any.
Just thankful for everybody that came in and the information that's come out. I appreciate it.
Charles?
I'll echo Lynn's comments on that one.
By the way, I thank you too for violating distance warnings and both being in the same room. It's great to see you, Charles. Tessa?
Sorry, I was muted. The only thing I have is something from a couple of concerned parents, that the board meetings are not including a good update on distance learning and how that's going. And then other institutions have already started making multiple contingencies for fall, and we haven't heard updates on that either. And then also I had a parent message me, I think this is more for the SU meeting, but they would like more information published on what parents should do, especially parents with kids in special ed who feel that their children are not getting the services they deserve and haven't really gotten where they need to get going through the normal channels. I think they're not really sure what the normal channels are at this point or what they can expect. And maybe we could put something out, the SU could put something out, just letting everybody know who to contact if they're having issues with what their kids are getting.
So SPID, contingency, and distance learning. Are those the three big ones? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay, Chris,
I
saw Chris sigh.
No, I mean, I was actually reading the mail. No, I think those are all important topics. I think what we're, it's tough because, us, for superintendents and then administrators, we're getting the same information the same time the general public is, and it's moving so quick. And we're trying to respect the not overloading parents with emails and messages and everything else, because we've gotten that concern that we're really overloading people and parents with emails and stuff. I think what the community can know is that each school right now does have a task force comprised of teachers, administrators, counselors, special ed, technology, and we're working on these contingency plans, not knowing what we're really working on, so that is in progress. There's really nothing to send out to the communities because we really don't know what the fall is going to look like. I know principals and myself, we try to make it part of our reports to the board and to the public because, like I said, we're getting a lot of emails and feedback from parents like, whoa, just back off. You're telling us too much. And so we try not to put things out there until we know what we're putting out there isn't going to change the next day. So communication is tough. We're going to continue to work on it. The contingency plans are working on. We're actually trying to create 3 different ones, because we're really not getting a whole lot of guidance at this point from the state because they don't know either. But we're just working in the now. And I think for any families who need to express concern about the learning that may not be happening, whether it's regular or special ed, I encourage them to reach out to their building administrators or their IEP case manager so we can work with them and get them through this. We don't want anyone to fall through the cracks. If people are struggling, we want to know about it, and on every case, whether it's education, food, what have you. So I think keeping that open line of communication and for parents, I think it's very important, and it should start with their school administrator, and we can point them in the right direction and get them the services and answer the questions that they need. So, I think it's very important points that were brought up, and we'll continue to address them as much as we can, but people have to understand is that we don't have the information as readily available as we would all like it.
I think that in fairness to you and to my colleagues, what we can do is put these up as agenda items rather than just part of the director's comments, because I think revisiting them will give you more time to organize your thoughts. So you've done a good job right now, and we can move on with your permission. All right, Melissa, any thoughts, digitally or otherwise? All right, Cheryl, any?
Well, thank you. I really appreciate all the comments that I've just heard. Thank you, Jessica, for raising those topics that can be part of the agenda going forward as well. I want to especially thank all the teachers, all the paraprofessionals, all the community members, the parents who joined us on this call tonight. It's an amazing help to us. We all know that this is an exceptionally challenging time. So it's really helpful to see this much interest and thoughtfulness. We're going to need some help in communicating to the public the importance of voting for the budget. And the other items that they'll need to help with to give us the opportunity to keep things running smoothly. I want to say, even though that budget figure is what was originally proposed, it doesn't mean all those monies will be spent, but it does mean that we'll have the opportunity to be thoughtful about it, and we need the community support. So again, my thanks to everybody.
Thank you. Have I missed anybody among my board colleagues? Don't think I have. Just want to quickly say, as this board's negotiations rep, I think that it's important to understand that we're simultaneously trying to plan for an approved budget and plan for a budget that fails. One of the easiest ways to help our colleagues worried about their future with the district and with the supervisory union is to do whatever you can to urge this budget to be passed. I've found teachers and administrators often are very persuasive. I'm hoping that will be the case. We do the other thing I would suggest to all parties is do not hesitate to contact your legislators. There are plans both to do a last minute rescission of money, which will force more layoffs. And there is a plan to have the legislature support our budgets in full, quite irrespective of anything else. Essentially, they would intervene on our behalf. That may appeal to you as well. If you need names, I'll give them to you. With that, I'm going to thank you all and resume our move towards an executive session. Thank you one and all again. And when in doubt, call me if you have a question.